Azure Synapse REST API is a powerful tool for managing and automating Azure Synapse Analytics resources. To get started with the Azure Synapse REST API, you need to register an application with Azure Active Directory and grant the necessary permissions. This will provide you with a client ID and client secret, which you can use to authenticate your API requests. First, you need to understand the basics of the Azure Synapse REST API, including the available endpoints and HTTP methods. The API uses standard HTTP methods such as GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE to perform operations on Azure Synapse resources. You can use the API to create, read, update, and delete resources such as workspaces, databases, and pipelines. To authenticate your API requests, you need to obtain an access token using the client ID and client secret. You can do this by sending a POST request to the Azure Active Directory token endpoint. The access token is then included in the authorization header of your API requests. One of the key concepts in the Azure Synapse REST API is the concept of workspaces. A workspace is a container for Azure Synapse resources, including databases, pipelines, and notebooks. You can use the API to create and manage workspaces, including setting up storage and security configurations. Another important concept is the concept of pipelines. A pipeline is a series of activities that are executed in a specific order. You can use the API to create and manage pipelines, including setting up data sources and destinations, and configuring pipeline parameters. Best practices for using the Azure Synapse REST API include handling errors and exceptions properly, and implementing retry logic to handle transient failures. You should also use secure authentication and authorization mechanisms to protect your Azure Synapse resources. In terms of practical examples, you can use the Azure Synapse REST API to automate tasks such as creating and deleting workspaces, and starting and stopping pipelines. You can also use the API to integrate Azure Synapse with other tools and services, such as Azure Data Factory and Azure Storage. Overall, the Azure Synapse REST API provides a powerful and flexible way to manage and automate Azure Synapse Analytics resources. By following best practices and using the API effectively, you can streamline your workflow and improve productivity.